Nothing is more quintessentially New York than the yellow taxicab. What started as a small fleet of little red cars over 100 years ago has turned into a bustling system of thousands of yellow cabs. Despite years of turmoil, the taxi has become an icon of this buzzing metropolis.
They're introducing people to New York City, they're telling their story, they're sharing those evanescent moments of intimacy within a confined space. It sort of uplifts the occupation over the humdrum of the everyday drive.
But being a cab driver these days, it's tough. The combination of the COVID-19 pandemic, competitors like Uber and Lyft, and city scandal has left many cabbies hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And this forever-changing industry may soon not need drivers behind the wheel at all.
If Optimus Ride can be successful in New York City, it can be successful anywhere.
But first, it was the yellow cab that saw success on these streets.
My name is Richard Chow. I'm driving for a cab 16 years. The people they trust the yellow cab. We are iconic. Yellow cabs are our landmark, you know.
In 2006, Richard Chow purchased a permit to operate his own yellow cab in New York City. This permit, called a medallion, is a tin plate attached to the hood of a taxi. Medallions were once viewed as a valuable long-term investment. For medallion owner drivers like Richard, this piece of tin was akin to owning a house, and it cost about as much.
I paid $410,000.
Richard was able to set his own hours and was no longer beholden to leasing out a medallion-clad taxi from a fleet. By 2014, the value of a medallion inflated to over $1 million. Drivers could sell their medallion for more than they paid for it and retire comfortably. There was a time when the idea of a medallion losing its value was beyond belief. Its value steadily rose every year, and with a fixed number of them available, about 13,000, it was easy to sell if a driver couldn't make the loan payments. But this was before ride-sharing apps and before the medallion market crashed. Today, a medallion is worth less than $100,000, leaving many owner-drivers, the majority of them immigrants, in the lurch.
Before we make money, we make American dream. Now medallion prices have crashed. We lost everything. We have 6,000 medallion owners frustrated, devastated. We lost investment, retirement. We lost everything.
The medallion, now the cause of crisis for thousands, was years ago the solution to another crisis. Long before the yellow taxicab took to the streets of the Big Apple, New Yorkers could hail a ride in a hansom cab, essentially a horse-drawn carriage. In 1897, 12 electric-powered hansom cabs hit the streets, New York's first taxi fleet. The Electric Vehicle Company would manufacture about 2,000 cabs for use in New York and beyond. These electric cars, well ahead of their time, were not efficient. And in 1907, the company succumbed to its financial woes. That same year, entrepreneur Harry N. Allen was angered after a hansom cab driver charged him $5 for a 3/4-mile ride, about $150 today. Allen decided to create a system where there would be a fixed price for every mile. He also sought an automobile that would be far superior to anything introduced in the U.S. On October 1st, 1907, Allen showcased his success in achieving this by parading 65 new French Duroc gasoline-powered cabs down Fifth Avenue. Each was fitted with a meter. A year later, his fleet was 700 cabs strong. The cabs were red or green. Allen would later paint some of them yellow for higher visibility. The New York Taxi Cab Company was born. Though it would fail just a year later, it would become the blueprint for how New York City's taxi service works today. As the gasoline-powered vehicle gained traction across the world, more taxi companies would take over the city streets. The industry suffered from lack of regulation over the next 2 decades. Passengers considered taking a cab to be dangerous, and cabbies gained a reputation as farriers of illegal activity. In 1934, labor disputes sparked a violent strike by fleet drivers. Independent cab drivers who ignored the strike were pulled from their cars, beaten, ice blocks were thrown through cab windows, and marbles were tossed under the hooves of police horses. With the introduction of the Haas Act in 1937, the modern taxi industry took shape. The Haas Act established the medallion system, which capped cabs in the city at a total of just over 13,500. It cost $10 to purchase a medallion. The monopoly over cabs in the city quelled the unrest and competition between cabbies by giving owners of medallions the exclusive right to pick up street hails. By 1967, all New York City cabs were mandated to be yellow to signify the official license. In 1971, the Taxi and Limousine Commission was created to regulate medallion taxi cabs and for-hire vehicles in New York City. That same year, Graham Hodges began driving a taxi.
There was sort of an adventurous quality to it, driving through the traffic. I felt a little bit like a halfback on a football team breaking into the open field when there was an opportunity. When I started, I had 17 cents in my pocket, and I wound up at the end of the day with $60. It was fabulous. And I did that for 5 years. What I found is that little by little, I was turning in earlier, making less money. The job was breaking me. It was simply wearing down my body and my psyche, and I felt I had to get out of it. It was an extraordinary experience. I'm glad I got out of it, and I feel a lot of empathy for the guys who stayed in it. They know their job is gritty. It's a heartbreaking occupation. At the same time, they feel like they're doing something important. They're introducing people to New York City. They're telling their story. They're sharing those evanescent moments of intimacy within a confined space. It sort of uplifts the occupation over the humdrum of the everyday drive.
In 1979, the city passed legislation that allowed taxi fleets to pass the cost of driving to drivers, in a move that some said would stabilize the industry.
With the Lease Driver Act, the driver had to put up money before he even got behind the wheel. Okay? And this means that for most drivers, it would be several days of work before they would make any money for the week. That's a fundamental change. All the old-timers left within a couple of years because they didn't want to work as lease drivers anymore. And it became a profoundly immigrant occupation.
I came to New York City in 1987. Easy to find a job. We are making American dream to come into the New York City.
Cab drivers like Richard worked long hours in the days before he owned his medallion.
Before I driving 5 a.m. into the 5 p.m. Plus, I spend my time coming to go to the garage, 15 hours on the street.
Things were better after he bought the medallion, especially in the days before ride-sharing apps. Richard's yellow cab medallion allows him to operate anywhere in the city, while green cabs are licensed to serve only parts of Manhattan and the outer boroughs. There are multiple models of cars that are approved by the Taxi and Limousine Commission for use as a yellow cab. All vehicles must be less than 7 years old. These cars must be hacked up or transformed into a taxi with the proper color, markings, and equipment. This is also where the medallion is installed.
Before Uber and Lyft, the business are booming. Everybody taking a yellow cab because they have no choice. Even sometimes I don't have lunchtime, walking, make a lot of money.
In the years before Uber's popularity took off in New York City, the yellow cab business was strong. In 2011, the city allowed ride-sharing apps to join the chorus of cars already on the streets, meeting resistance from the then-thriving cab industry. By 2017, it had taken over the majority of rides.
You know, it's very hard for a company of, say, 100 or 150 cabs to compete with a company that's got billions of dollars in investment capital. It's just not going to work. You know, it's an unfair competition.
Yellow cabs were about to enter a freefall. Further complicating the situation for drivers is a new technology on the horizon. It is a future that envisions not drivers, but computers.
Destination queued and sent. Route accepted. Engage when it's safe to do so.
Engaging in 3, 2, 1.
We have multiple sensors, which is working in real time all together and feeding our computer the information. And once the computer gets all the information, it processes it and then talks to the car, which happens in a loop continuously, and that will help the car to navigate around obstacles in real time. Just in case, if anything comes into safety, our safety driver will only take over at that point.
Optimus Ride has been testing its autonomous vehicles with the hope that their product will complement the existing transportation landscape in New York City.
It is true that some people think that as a driver, my job is at stake. The way that we try to think about it more is we're the next generation of technology. We went from horses to Model Ts to subways to trains to airports and airlines. And the work has changed, but people have always been at the forefront of making these systems work. The labor force has moved with it, and we're excited to bring the labor force with us to that next generation of mobility.
Autonomous vehicles also represent an attractive opportunity to reshape city infrastructure for the better. Not only are these electric vehicles better for the environment, but they could result in fewer cars on the city's already congested roads.
If Optimus Ride can be successful in New York City, it can be successful anywhere. As I think about how this affects taxi drivers, what's most important is dialogue, so that we can understand what the next generation of technology means to them and how they can be a part of it.
For now, the technology is far from entering mainstream transportation in New York City, so the fight for the yellow cab continues. Since its introduction in the 1930s, the price of owning a medallion slowly climbed throughout the decades. By 2014, a medallion was worth more than $1 million, but the bubble was about to burst. According to a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigation by the New York Times, it was all due to a predatory lending scheme that often targeted immigrants who didn't know what they were signing up for. Much like the 2008 housing crisis, medallion owners were left with astounding amounts of debt. Medallion owner drivers have been crushed by this debt. 9 of them have died by suicide in the last several years. Richard Chow's brother was one of them.
My brother's name is Kenny Chow. He saw me, I bought the medallion, I make the American dream, and he saved the money, he bought the medallion, $700,000. My brother unable to pay back the bank, the mortgage.
Fellow driver Augustine Tang also knew Kenny.
He had more hope than I did. He was saying the city has to do something right. But again, a year passed by, 2 years passed by, and couldn't survive, and it was a lot to take.
2018, he committed suicide near Gracie Mansion, the East River.
It's hard. These guys deserve better.
It's stories like this that brought many drivers out to City Hall to protest the debt. It's a fight that gained more urgency in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. While before, there were about 10,500 taxis on the streets, that number was reduced to about 3,500 over a year into the pandemic.
We're gonna be pulled down, march, and we're gonna be end up right in here. Follow me, please. Line up. No more suicide! No more bankruptcy! No more suicide!
We are asking for your mercy. We are asking for your help, and we want you to listen.
As far as I'm concerned, the city's one of the central culprits behind the collapse of the medallion market. The city engaged in deceptive advertising and speculative auctions and turned a blind eye to predatory loans. And the city has a moral responsibility to make these drivers whole.
The city took everything away from me. I built the city. I built this city from scratch. We are the yellow cab driver, South Asia, Haitian, the West Indian, all of us, we built.
We want justice. Not to the union. Not to the union. We want justice.
This is not acceptable. All the drivers that work, they did everything right. Everything right. People working 60 hours a week for less than $10 an hour. This is poverty. This is indentured servitude. It's against the law. The city can fix this.
Drivers, together with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance, fought to restructure cabbie debt. In October 2021, the city approved a $65 million grant program to restructure debt. But the drivers' union fought back, saying this would help lenders more than it would help drivers. They demanded more. In response to the city's plan, the New York Taxi Workers Alliance staged a rally and protest outside City Hall.
These guys who've been sitting behind a wheel for 20, 30, 40 years of their lives, they know injustice.
Stop colluding! Stop the driver! Stop colluding! Stop the driver!
I inherited my father's medallion in 2016, and he passed away 2015. Although I knew that he owed $530,000 on it, I decided to take it. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. It led me here. I wouldn't change it for anything. For all the years that I've been spending with these guys, they really have become my family as well, too. And I'm very lucky to be where I am. But any way to save these guys from losing their homes, they really lost their retirement. And I really think we could build a better industry together, but this comes first.
The protest went on for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I sleeping overnight in my car.
It also evolved to a hunger strike.
For 12 days, many of us have not had any food because we have wanted and needed to shock the consciousness of New York City, as well as the financial institutions that hold these loans.
Pretty fatigued overall. I signed up for 2 days. I didn't think I could make it to day 8, but here we are.
Richard, who lost his brother, continued the fight for a better future for himself and the rest of his fellow medallion owners.
I'm fighting for the hunger strike for 10 days today. We are stay hopeful. We are keep going fighting for justice and fairness.
The taxi industry has been a long-standing fixture and institution in the heart of our city. And it's an industry that largely employs immigrants who came here in search for a better life. And these immigrants had the American dream stolen from them, had their livelihoods and their retirement security stolen from them. So they represent what is best about our country and our city, and we should do right by them.
After years of tension, nearly 50 days of nonstop protesting and a hunger strike, a deal was finally struck on November 3rd, 2021. Many drivers will get millions more dollars of debt relief.
We have seen drivers who are here with us today who are being asked to pay more than $3,800 a month. And now that driver will pay $1,122. Brothers and sisters of the New York Taxi Workers Alliance, we did it! Together, we did this.
You can pay your mortgage, you can feed your children, but it wouldn't have happened without you.
What you did, once again, because you were strong, you were organized, you were righteous, your voices were heard.
Give it up to the one and only Richard Chang!
So today's I'm saving my life, my home, and saving 6,000 medallion owners and their family.
When you wake up, it still seems like a dream. And for many of us, I think we call each other during the week, and immediately we say, we did it, and you hear it in our voice. We just have a little bit more pep in our step, and we're just happy to be out of this crisis. For us, we are just so happy to be out of it, and knowing when we chant, no more suicides, no more bankruptcies, we really mean it, and it's there's no more, and I'm very happy about that. The fight's not over. There's still so many things that needs to be changed within the industry. I mean, for many of us, we know we have to build this union, build on this momentum.
New York City wouldn't be what it is today without the yellow cab. In a city that has at times been so difficult to get around, the cab has been constant through the decades, long before other transportation alternatives began to pop up.
I would dispute that the yellow cab is finished. I think cabs are coming back now. With Uber and Lyft raising their fares, suddenly cabs are a good deal. And people can embrace the sense of really being part of New York City history by riding in cabs, because they've been there for over a century now.
You cannot change anything. Like a Empire State Building, The yellow cab, also this is our landmark.